Joining us now, Senate Minority Leader, Democrat Chuck Schumer of New York. NBC's Casey Hunt also joins us from Capitol Hill, and the AP's Jonathan Lemire is back with us as well.
So, Chuck Schumer, what's the Democrats' strategy going into this week of confirmation hearings?
Well, it's very simple, Joe. We're focusing on the issues that matter to the American people. Above all, health care. Judge Barrett has said that she would overturn the ACA, which would rip away protections for people with pre-existing conditions. They could end up with no insurance. That's 130 million Americans. It would raise drug prices for 40 million seniors on Medicare. 20 million people would lose it. So we're focusing on that, and it's going to be a little unconventional. Every Democrat in their opening statement will have a story of someone from their state or another state, maybe a Republican member state, that will lose their health care under this issue, and we'll have large portraits showing them, because we're talking directly to the American people on the issues that matter to them. I'll tell you a story. We learned of Justice Ginsburg's death, our family, at a Rosh Hashanah dinner. And immediately my daughter, who was sitting next to her wife, turned to her and said, "I wonder if my right to marriage will be curtailed or eliminated." My mom, who has Parkinson's, called up and said she has a pre-existing condition. What's going to happen with her health care? We're going to focus on the issues, whether it be women's reproductive rights, the rights of labor, the climate change, and above all, health care. And we're going to show the American people how damaging this nominee, who said proudly, I guess, that she would follow Antonin Scalia, whose philosophy would turn the clock back 100 years, will be if she gets on the bench. The Republicans are rushing this through. As you know, it's totally hypocritical. That will be a second theme we will mention today, after they held back Merrick Garland 8 months before a presidential election. And we know why they're doing it. The number one reason is to get someone on the bench who will undo so many of the things people need and turn the clock back. They can't do it themselves. They're afraid to do it themselves, although a lot of these Republicans voted 8 or 9 times to repeal ACA. And so they're trying to get the courts to do it. And I think the American people will look very unkindly on it.
So Senator, Mitch McConnell's standard, as you know, better than most, over the past 4 years as it's pertained to Supreme Court justices and nomination fights has been might makes right. You and I could go back over the past 30 years, and we've been on opposite sides on a lot of things that have happened over the past 30 years. In this case, though, it's so clear that Mitch McConnell and the Republican standard is, if it's constitutional, we can do it. Doesn't matter whether we're lying. Doesn't matter whether we're going back on our own words. Doesn't matter whether we're turning the Senate into this crude majoritarian chamber. So if that applies to what they've done with Merrick Garland and now with this nomination, then why can't Democrats constitutionally finish what FDR started back over 80 years ago and add a couple of justices in response to Republican radicalism? It's constitutional. And by Mitch McConnell's standard, you would be in your right to do that, correct?
We would certainly be in the constitutional right to do it. Let me say this. You know, the Republicans are always looking for a smokescreen. They don't want America to know that this justice would take away their health care. They don't want America to know that this justice would repeal Roe v. Wade, even though 71% of Americans are against it. They don't want to know that this justice could turn the court into something that would get rid of all labor unions, make America a right-to-work state following the Janus decision. So they come up with smoke screens. And this idea, Democrats are going to pack the court. Well, what the heck were they doing? Listen to this. Not only Merrick Garland, which they held back, Republicans introduced legislation a few years ago to limit the number of judges on the second most important court in the land, the D.C. Court of Appeals, because they didn't want Obama to appoint people. And then the Fifth Circuit, the very circuit that decided to get rid of the ACA, they held back, McConnell did, all these judges when Obama was there, and then they appointed right-wingers who, again, undid ACA, which is what the Supreme Court will rule on November 10th. So this idea that Democrats are packing the court, they've already done it. As for ourselves, what I've said is we're going to win the election, God willing. President, maybe hopefully take back the Senate. It's not an easy fight, but we're doing well. And then everything will be on the table. That's all. But we're not going to fall into the trap of debating that now after what they've done and when there is so many substantive issues at stake that the American people care about, health care above all.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.